Okay, I am back in Los Angeles recording on the regular microphone. I'm actually flying out probably when I'm at the time of this recording. I am back in Los Angeles getting ready to go back to Chicago in order to screen Creative Force, the Ukraine documentary at Notre Dame on Tuesday, and then probably be back in Los Angeles around the first or second week of March. So enjoy the nice mic quality until I have to record the next episode, which it will be the other mic. So apologies in advance. And this week, I want to talk about how we as filmmakers can escape this mad rat race that we're on, which is called trying to please Hollywood. Actually, somebody asked me the question of how do we circumvent all the things that we're up against if we are not wanting to go the traditional route, and maybe not even so much not wanting to go the traditional route, but wanting to have some options and some leverage just to get our films out there. And I came up with 7 steps in order to do that, and just general career steps of just how to be a filmmaker who has leverage, can get their work out there and get it seen by an audience. All right. So first things first is you have to know who you are, what you say, and how to communicate that to other people. I did this a while ago when I was first starting out, is I would try and impress people with the idea. Now, we have to have good ideas. Having a bad idea obviously is not going to get a film made, but people are more interested in collaborating with you than they are your ideas. Let's take a look at just where we are as far as the making of any type of video media. It is no longer hard. It is very easy to do. It's been very democratized. For a few $1,000s, you can get some lights, a camera, some sound equipment, and some editing software to put it all together. So barrier of entry, very easy, or at least easier than it used to be. So how do you differentiate yourself? It's by A, obviously making good quality stuff, but B, what is your personal perspective on that stuff? And can you communicate that to an investor, an audience, your filmmaking team? How do you communicate who you are? Because that's why people want to work with you. That's what makes you stand out. And probably the easiest way I can give people a start of how you communicate yourself is, can you describe the type of work that you make in a sentence? If you can do that, then that will go a long way. Like, I make this because I want to talk about this, and all my films have this core message that's involved in them. So that is step one. Know who you are, know how to communicate that, and that will help you start to build some leverage. All right. Second thing, you have to learn who the audience of your film is. Every film has a core audience. Obviously, everybody can physically watch the movie. There's nothing stopping anyone when they sit down to watch a movie or any type of piece of media from watching it. But there are certain people who you are making it for, and that makes up your core audience who you are targeting. They say that a film for everybody is a film for nobody, and that's because there's nothing that really makes it stand out. You're trying to have your cake and eat it too. You're trying to weave too many things in there and something gets lost. But when you start getting really specific, like, I made this film for these people. Take a look at Scorsese. He started making movies specifically for the people who he grew up with in his Italian neighborhood. Spike Lee made movies talking about the experience that he grew up with in Brooklyn, New York. That is very specific. And that's where you start. Now, you can obviously expand from that, but I think, especially in this day and age when it's so easy to make things, the more specific you can get of who you're targeting and who the film is for, the better off it will be. Because you're like, hey, I'm making this for these people. And then you can go and communicate with those people, which is, again, easier to do now than it was before, because we have all kinds of channels in order to do that. And it's just a better way of, again, building some leverage, because you know how to communicate yourself. You have your idea and you know exactly who it's for. And then you start targeting those people who it's for, so you can start and build a little bit of audience, a little bit of traction. There are people who really resonate with the film who are waiting on it and will champion it. That's part of the thing that we need an audience to do. Besides, we need people to act on our behalf. We need people to talk about us and our work when we're not in the room. That's what makes a film or a personality or a person marketable and magnetic, is when people are there talking about you and the work that you make without you having to tell them why they should watch it. There are other people saying, you should watch this because I watched it and it told me X, Y, and Z. All right. Third step, we have to start creating better materials besides just the movie. Every film needs a website. Every film needs a social media presence. Every film needs a great deck and poster, needs a great EPK. All of the materials that surround your movie, you need to place as much care in that as you do the actual movie. I've met so many people who they spend all this time and care on making the movie, and when it comes to creating their social media feed or their website or their deck, they're just like, I'll just spend like $100 and just have something up. If you spend time caring about all the other things in addition to the movie, that will make more people want to watch whatever it is you create, because they'll think, well, they spent this much time and care on this part, then whatever they made, they must have that same level of care with the actual piece of work that they made. So have great materials, have a place where people can go and follow and do stuff. It's not enough for just somebody to look at it and, click follow on your Instagram page. Give them a website and a destination where they can hopefully plop down an email address, so that way you can keep informing them and keep them up to date with what's going on. All right. Number 4, create avenues. Use your film festival run in concert with events. I think something that would be really good to do is, when you're on your film festival run, the ones that you can go to, find either a local theater, maybe there's a local organization that has similar interests in line with the themes of your movie, and see if you can do a screening afterwards. Hopefully you can charge for the screening, but that way you are not limited to just the people who like to go to film festivals. There are certain types of people who like to go to film festivals, obviously, and you want to get people who either don't really like to go to film festivals because they're not sure what it is that they're watching, and or would be very interested in your movie, but because film festivals have so much out there, they are not really interested specifically in seeing yours. Create an event after the film festival screening. So let's say your movie screens on a Thursday. See if you can set something up for a Friday or a Saturday, where anybody who's interested in the topic or the movie or just wants to see it can come out and see it, and they can interact with you, ask you questions, and that will gain you a different type of audience than the one you get at the film festival screening. Film festivals are great for networking with other filmmakers and people of the industry, which obviously is important, but you also want to take time to get to know people who are just general audience members who, again, will go out and talk about this to their friends and tell them that they should see it. And if you have some place for them to go, all the better. This is why, again, the website and the email address is important. All right, 5, collaborate. We, especially as filmmakers, we keep thinking that we have to do all of this on our own. And especially with new technologies like AI, we're trying to figure out how we can do it on our own. And that's not the way that any of this works. That's not how life works. Even somebody who's painting still needs to collaborate with somebody else to get it in front of people to see it. So find companies, individuals, organizations, anybody and everyone who will help you with creating and marketing the film. This is a team sport. It's a team effort. So the more collaboration that you can involve, the better. And again, I think, especially when we're talking about the people that help you create the movie, especially if I'm going to assume that the people listening to this are in a lower budget level, find ways to reward them besides the credit, even if that means giving up some share of the profits. If there are profits, it's just a nice thing to do. People are out here struggling to find work, especially the entertainment industry. So if you're not offering a good paycheck, at least you can offer something on the back end. All right. Number 6, long-term thinking. Distribution is a lifelong activity. Now, we have our initial festival run and release, and hopefully with that initial festival run and release, we get it sold somewhere and somebody comes to watch it. But that's not it. That's not the way that we should be thinking about it. We have to think that a film can come back after a certain period of time and then have another release. Maybe there's a new version, or maybe just it didn't find the audience that you wanted, or maybe there's a new audience that's interested in it. So think of a film as a long-term asset. For example, Spike Lee, if you follow his Instagram, you'll notice that there is usually every month or two a new version or a new release of a movie that he made, or he's celebrating a movie that he made in the past, or he's got some other thing that goes along with it. And actually, I have had films that have come back that I thought had the initial festival run. I was like, oh, I put in festivals. It didn't really get into festivals that I wanted. So I guess that's it. And then lo and behold, years later, not only Sprout, but also my short film Breakaway has gotten new audience attention for it. Actually, Sprout is available to stream on a place called Soleil Space. And Breakaway, after I had the initial festival runs, I showed it to several other just private organizations that wanted to screen it. So never think that just because your film has had its initial run, that's it. Bring it back, which this is why it's important to have good archiving practices. So that way, if it does come back, which is what I found out when I had to find the old project and open it, and then realized that I didn't quite have all the files that I needed. So I had to edit some stuff around because there was an actor who didn't want to be featured in it. It was a little bit of a challenge, which would have been easier if I had had good archiving practices and could just open up the project, move some things around, and then export again. Good archiving practices. Remember that. Always have a copy in 3 different places and be able to access it whenever you need to. A little technical note, if you can't save the entire raw footage, at least export a version that has stems. So you have your video, any titles go on a separate track, dialogue on one track, sound effects on one track, music on another. So that way you can easily manipulate them without having to worry about need to cutscene to move it. But I have the music embedded, so I can't do that. It'll just save you a lot of headache if you can't save the raw original project. But get in the habit of trying to save the raw original project in 3 different places. But anyway, technical tangent over. Think long term. Your film will have its initial run, but think about when it can have a second run and a third run. As long as that film exists, it can earn you impact, audience, and hopefully money. So keep putting it out there. All right. That kind of leads me into number 7, which is appreciate the films that you make as if they were small businesses. Everybody tells you that people start small businesses because they have either a problem they want to solve or it's something that they really love to do and they want to see if they can build something around it. So each film is a small business. It is an asset that if you take care of it, will appreciate other time, which means you have to value it. Again, this comes back to long-term thinking. If you don't find people that value it initially, just keep going and you will find people that do. A lot of people in this world. And right now we have different ways of reaching them. So there is an audience for your movie. You just have to go out and find them. So find people who value the movie, not just audience, but people that you partner with, people that you are trying to sell it with. Make sure that they don't have to value it as much as you do, but they should at least appreciate it. They should look at the time and effort and craft that you put into it and value that. And if they don't value that, they just see it as a piece of content or whatever, then maybe that's a relationship you have to think about whether you want to be involved in. Budgets are being cut for films all across the board. I just spoke with somebody that I know. We're working on a project together for a company you may or may not have heard of, but he is already hearing from larger production and studios, like not the Paramounts, but the ones that are a step below, how they can make movies for $1 million or less. So if those companies who have typically made movies for 6 are saying we need to come down to 1, you need to come down from 1 to somewhere lower. So if you're not familiar with that, if you think that your movie needs to be made for $50 million and you don't have access to $50 million, either make that movie for less than a million or find another movie, because they are scaling down all across the board. And especially if you're going out to raise money, it's hard to sell a movie anyway. So the lower you can make the budget without sacrificing quality, the easier it will be to recoup what it is that you spend. And especially if you want to make this a full-time career, you need to be able to recoup what you spent. So those are my 7 steps. Number 1, know who you are, know how to communicate your message, know how to communicate the type of work that you make, because people are more interested in working with you than they are necessarily the idea. Number 2, learn who the audience of your film is. Every film has an audience. Find that core audience and make sure that you are targeting them mostly, and then whoever else is around that can come along. Number 3, have great materials, website, email address, social media, all of it. Take time, care, and effort and put it into those materials so it looks just as good as the movie, if not better. Number 4, scale down. Budgets are being cut across the board for films everywhere. So don't price yourself out of either being able to get your film made or being able to actually get the money back that has been spent. Next one, collaborate. Find people, collaborators who help you make the movie, the people who watch the movie, the people who try to sell the movie. Always keep on finding your collaborators. Long-term thinking. Keep embracing long-term thinking. We have to treat our movies as long-term assets, because just because it doesn't have success the first go around doesn't mean that it won't on the second go around or the third or the fourth. Keep putting the movie out there. You spent time working on it. The people who worked on it spent time on it. Value the time that the people spent to make it, which means keep putting it out there, because you spent a lot of time and hours on it. So you should spend at minimum that amount of time and hours trying to get it out in front of an audience. And last one, appreciate your films. It's tied in with the previous one, but you have to appreciate it. Find people that do appreciate it and only work with those people if possible. All right, so those are my tactics for how we can create more leverage around our work and around our careers. I know it's a time of chaos and consolidation, not just in the film industry, but just it seems like in the world in general. It's a crazy time and everything's on fire, both literally and metaphorically. But I think we have more agency and ability than we give ourselves credit for. We keep coming back to this place where either somebody else has to handle all this and we don't need to know about it, or it's just too big and the odds are too stacked against us. I think if we are to reframe our approaches and reframe the way that we communicate ourselves and also the way we think, that we can build leverage and actually make a long-term go of this. There you have it. I hope this helps some people gain some insight and perspective. Go out there, make your movies, and get them out there. There is someone who's waiting for it. They just don't know it yet. So just keep on telling everyone about it until you find the right people. I will be back next week. We'll see if it's the good microphone or the bad microphone. It'll be after I've had the screening for Creative Force, so I'll probably be talking all about that. And stay safe out there. Goodbye.